Chapter 1. The Architect. Mac Fitzpatrick had built his life with the same precision he applied to his blueprints. At 35, he'd left Army intelligence behind for something cleaner, architecture. His firm in Alexandria, Virginia specialized in adaptive reuse, transforming old structures into something new. There was poetry in it, he thought, giving broken things second chances. His son Jay, 8 years old and sharp as a tack, sat across from him at the breakfast table, building a tower from blocks while Kirsten poured coffee. 10 years of marriage. A beautiful home. A thriving career. Mac had earned his peace. Dad, can buildings think? Jay asked, not looking up from his tower. What makes you ask that? You always say they tell you things. What they want to be. Mac smiled. His son inherited his analytical mind. They have memory. Every crack, every beam tells a story. You learn to listen. Kirsten set down Mac's mug, her fingers brushing his shoulder. You too and your philosophical mornings, she said, her smile perfect. Everything about Kirsten was perfect, her auburn hair, her measured warmth, the way she'd slipped into his life a decade ago at a Georgetown fundraiser. She'd been a paralegal then, ambitious and charming. His father Greg hadn't attended that night, too deep in whatever CIA operation consumed him, but he'd approved of Kirsten quickly enough when they'd met. Mac's phone buzzed. A text from Lucas Hunt, his old Army intelligence partner. Drink soon? Been too long, brother. Work? Kirsten asked, too casually. Just Lucas. Wants to catch up. Something flickered across her face, too fast to read. You should. You never see your old friends anymore. After breakfast, Mac drove Jay to school, then headed to his office. The commute gave him thinking time. His current project, converting a 1920s bank into a tech hub, required delicate balance between preservation and innovation. The vault would become a conference room, the teller windows transformed into collaborative spaces. He'd been sketching solutions for weeks. His phone rang. Greg. His father rarely called during business hours. Dad, can't talk long. How's Jay? Good. What? A pause. Just checking. Watch out for each other. The line went dead. Max stared at his phone. Greg Blevins didn't do casual check-ins. 30 years with the CIA had honed him into an instrument. Precise, purposeful, never wasteful. That call meant something. The rest of the day passed in routine meetings and drafting sessions, but Mac's instincts, those survival mechanisms he'd thought he'd retired, began whispering. He noticed his associate, Britt Ochoa, asking unusual questions about his schedule. He caught Kirsten's friend, Suzanne Barry, watching his office from across the street during lunch. By evening, Mac was certain something was wrong. He picked up Jay from soccer practice, scanning the parking lot with old habits. At home, Kirsten had made lasagna, Jay's favorite. They ate together, laughing at Jay's stories about his teammates' failed bicycle trick. Normal. Perfect. Too perfect. After Jay was asleep, Max sat in his study, ostensibly reviewing blueprints, actually thinking. His military training had taught him pattern recognition. Kirsten had been subtly different lately, checking her phone more, taking calls in other rooms, asking questions about Greg's visit last month. At 2:47 a.m., Mac's phone exploded with noise. Greg, are you home? Mac's heart kicked. Yes, sleeping. What's wrong? Lock every door. Turn off all lights. Take your son to the guest room. Now. You're scaring me. Do it. Don't let your wife know anything. The line stayed open. Mac could hear keyboard clicks, Greg's breathing. He moved on autopilot, training overriding confusion. He crept into Jay's room, scooped up his sleeping son. Dad, Jay mumbled. Shoo, we're playing a game. Stay quiet. He slipped downstairs, avoiding the creaky third step, and entered the guest room at the back of the house. He locked the door, laid Jay on the bed, moved to the window. What he saw stopped his heart. Chapter 2. Ghost Protocol. Through the guest room window, Mac had a direct sight line to the master bedroom across the yard, illuminated by the neighbor's security light. What he saw redefined his reality. Kirsten stood in their bedroom, dressed in black tactical clothing he'd never seen. She held a suppressed pistol with professional ease, sweeping the room. She touched her ear, an earpiece, and spoke silently. Then she moved toward the hallway, toward Jay's room. Mac's phone vibrated. Greg's text. 3 hostiles outside. 2 vehicles. 4 in operation. Kirsten is the primary. Asset planted 10 years ago. Target was always me. You and Jay are loose ends. Stay hidden. Help coming. 10 years. Their entire marriage. Jay's entire life. The math clicked into place with sickening clarity. Kirsten had appeared right after Greg's promotion to the CIA's technology division, which oversaw cyber operations and classified systems. Mac had been the access point, the unwitting bridge to his father. Dad, Jay whispered. Why are we hiding? Mac pulled his son close, covering his mouth gently. Remember the game we played? About being secret agents? Jay nodded, eyes wide but trusting. We're doing that for real. Stay completely silent. Can you do that? Another nod. Through the window, Mac watched Kirsten emerge from the house's back door, still armed, moving with tactical precision toward the guest house. She was hunting them. Mac's mind raced through scenarios. The guest room had one exit, but the window opened onto the back fence. Beyond that, the neighbor's yard, then the street. He had maybe 2 minutes before Kirsten reached them. His phone buzzed again. Greg, vehicle approaching. White van. Northeast corner. Get ready to run. Mac gathered Jay, moved to the window, quietly unlatched it. Outside, he heard footsteps, multiple sets. Kirsten's voice, low and commanding. Check the perimeter. They're here somewhere. That voice. The same voice that had said, I love you 1,000 times. All eyes. A white van screeched around the corner, headlights off. Mac didn't hesitate. He pushed open the window, pulled Jay through, dropped to the grass. They ran for the fence as shouts erupted behind them. The van's door slid open. A man Mac recognized, Lucas Hunt, reached out. Move. Mac threw Jay inside, dove in after him. Lucas floored it as gunshots cracked behind them. The back window spiderwebbed, but held. The hell, Lucas? Greg called me an hour ago. Gave me the full briefing. Lucas whipped through residential streets, his driving aggressive but controlled. Your wife is Kirsten Dean, real name Katia Volkov. Russian SVR, deep cover. She's been mining your father's information through you for a decade. Jay trembled against Mac's side. Is Mom bad? Mac's heart shattered. Yes, buddy. I'm sorry. Yes. They drove to a safe house in Arlington, a nondescript townhouse Greg maintained off the books. Inside, Lucas handed Mac a phone. Your father's waiting. Greg's face appeared on the screen, haggard. I'm sorry, son. I discovered the operation 3 hours ago. Pure luck? NSA caught communications about an extraction tonight. When they mentioned your address, I pulled every file. Kirsten's been a ghost story in our files for years. We never knew who she'd targeted. How did you not vet her? Mac's voice was ice. I did. Her identity was perfect. Real person, real background. They'd been building her legend since she was 16. This was a long game operation. What do they want? Me. My access. My knowledge. But tonight was termination. You and Jay had served your purpose. They were extracting Kirsten and erasing loose ends. Mac looked at Jay, curled up on the couch, clutching a pillow. His son. His innocent son, whose mother had planned to kill him. What now? Mac asked. Now. Greg's smile was wolfish. Now we burn them down. Every single one. But Mac, this goes deep. Kirsten wasn't alone. She had support, infrastructure, handlers. Some of them might be people you know. Mac's mind went to Britt Ochoa. Suzanne Barry. I need everything, Mac said. Every file, every resource. I want names, faces, locations. You're not an operator anymore, son. No, Mac said, his voice hardening. I'm something worse. I'm a betrayed husband with an intelligence background and absolutely nothing to lose. So give me what I need, or I'll find it myself. Greg was silent for a moment, then nodded. Lucas will coordinate with you. I'm sending you everything we have. But Mac, this isn't a CIA operation. This is personal. If you go after them, you're on your own. Good, Mac said. I prefer it that way. Chapter 3, Deconstruction. The safe house became Mac's operations center. While Jay slept upstairs, Mac spread files across the dining table. Lucas brought coffee and sat beside him, like old times in Baghdad, analyzing threats. Kirsten reported to Anton Romero. Lucas explained, pointing to a surveillance photo. SVR handler, based in New York under diplomatic cover. He's been running her since insertion. But here's the interesting part. Romero has American contacts. People who've helped maintain Kirsten's cover. The first photo made Mac's stomach turn. Suzanne Barry, Kirsten's best friend, the woman who'd attended Jay's birthday parties. Real name, Svetlana Borisova, another deep cover operative. The second photo, Britt Ochoa, Mac's associate at the firm. Son of a bitch, Mac whispered. He had access to my schedule, my projects, my movements. It gets worse. Lucas pulled up another file. Your firm worked on the renovation of 3 government buildings in the last 2 years. Britt copied the blueprints, security layouts, everything. Kirsten passed them to Romero. Mac's work had been weaponized against his own country. His art turned into ammunition. They're scrambling, Lucas continued. The operation blew up in their faces. They'll try to extract tonight or eliminate assets. We have maybe 12 hours before they disappear. Then we move fast. Mac pulled up a map of the DC area. Where's Romero? Russian embassy officially. But he has a private residence in Georgetown. Diplomatic immunity makes him untouchable. Mac smiled, dark and cold. Not if we never touch him. Over the next hours, Mac and Lucas built a plan. Not a military operation, something smarter. Mac's architectural training had taught him systems thinking. Every structure had load-bearing elements. Remove them, and everything collapses. First, he called Horacio Brown, a private investigator he'd used for background checks on contractors. I need surveillance. Full package. And I need it fast. How dirty? Illegal. Expensive. Urgent. Music to my ears, Horacio said. By dawn, Horacio had teams watching Britt's apartment, Romero's Georgetown house, and known SVR's safe houses. Max studied the feeds on multiple screens, seeing the network's panic in real time. Britt had made 3 calls to a burner phone. Suzanne had fled her apartment with 2 suitcases. They're running, Lucas observed. Let them run, Max said. Right into the trap. He'd been up all night, but adrenaline and rage kept him sharp. Jay woke around 7, and Mac made him pancakes, keeping his voice gentle even as his mind calculated brutal mathematics. When can we go home? Jay asked. Not yet, buddy, but we're working on it. Is Mom going to jail? Mac knelt beside his son. Yes. What she did was very bad. She hurt a lot of people, including us. Did she ever love us? The question cut deeper than any blade. Mac wanted to lie, to preserve something. But Jay deserved truth. I don't know, Max said. Maybe part of her did. But the person she really was, that person only cared about her mission. Jay nodded slowly, processing. Are you going to stop her? Yes. Good. Mac's phone buzzed. Horacio, Romero's moving. 2-car convoy, heading northwest. Mac pulled up the tracking feed. The convoy was heading toward Dulles Airport. They're extracting him. We can't touch him at the embassy or airport, Lucas said. Diplomatic. I'm not touching him anywhere official. Mac opened his laptop, pulled up schematics. But between Georgetown and Dulles, there are 17 private roads, 3 construction zones, and 2 areas with 0 police presence. Lucas grinned. You're going to stage an accident. No, Max said, his voice cold. I'm going to make him have one. He called Horacio. I need a vehicle, something heavy. And I need it positioned on Leesburg Pike, Northwest Junction, in the next 20 minutes. Mac, Lucas warned. If you kill a Russian diplomat. I'm not killing anyone. Physics is. Within 30 minutes, Mac and Lucas were in position. Horacio had acquired a stolen dump truck, now parked in a blind curve. Mac watched the tracking feed. Romero's convoy approached. Timing was everything. Mac had calculated the exact moment when Romero's vehicle would be committed to the turn, unable to stop or swerve. Now, Mac said. Horacio released the truck's brake. It rolled forward, just as Romero's SUV entered the curve at 60 miles per hour. The driver saw it too late, jerked the wheel. The SUV flipped, rolled, crashed into a ravine. Mac and Lucas were gone before the second vehicle stopped. Later, reports would call it a tragic accident. A stolen vehicle, a terrible coincidence. Romero survived with severe injuries, broken spine, shattered pelvis. He'd never walk again, never work again. But Mac wasn't finished. Not even close. Back at the safe house, he opened a new file. Kirsten's location. She was still in the area, still hunting him, still dangerous. Time to bring the house down, Max said. Chapter 4, Foundation Cracks. Britt Ochoa made his first mistake at 9:47 a.m. He went home. Mac watched from across the street as Britt entered his Arlington apartment, nervous and sweating despite the cool morning. Horacio's surveillance had tracked him all night. Calls to Moscow numbers, encrypted messages, increasing desperation. He's the weak link, Mac told Lucas. Britt's not a trained operative. He's a local asset, probably recruited in college. Money, ideology, or blackmail, doesn't matter. He's scared. So we leveraged that fear. Mac nodded. He'd brought something special for this conversation. A laptop containing every file Britt had stolen, every blueprint he'd copied, every security breach he'd enabled. But more importantly, Mac had spent the morning creating something new. Evidence suggesting Britt had been skimming SVR money, betraying his handlers. Forged, of course, but Britt wouldn't know that. Mac entered the apartment building alone. He'd learned lockpicking in Army intelligence. Britt's cheap deadbolt took 15 seconds. Inside, Britt sat at his kitchen table, head in his hands. "Hello, Britt." Britt's head snapped up, terror flooding his face. "Mac, I didn't. You've been selling me out for 3 years." Mac's voice was conversational, almost friendly. That made it worse. Every project, every schedule, every blueprint. "How much did they pay you?" It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. They said it was just information, industrial espionage. "They were planning to kill me and my 8-year-old son last night." "Did they mention that?" Britt's face went white. No, I swear." Mac dropped the laptop on the table. "Here's your problem, Britt. Your handlers think you've been stealing from them. I have evidence. Bank transfers, communications, everything. They're coming for you. Probably today." "That's not true. I never." "Doesn't matter if it's true. Matters what they believe." Mac leaned in. "Anton Romero is in intensive care with a broken spine. The operation is collapsing. The SVR is in cleanup mode, eliminating assets and loose ends." "You're a loose end." Britt's hands shook. "What do you want?" "Everything you know. Every contact, every meeting, every piece of information. Give me that, and I'll give you a chance to run before they find you. If I tell you, they'll kill me anyway. If you don't tell me," Mac said coldly, "I'll make sure they know you're cooperating with the FBI. Either way, you're finished. But only one way lets you live long enough to disappear." The interrogation took 2 hours. Britt spilled everything: dead drops, safe houses, communication protocols, and most importantly, the broader conspiracy. The SVR hadn't just planted Kirsten. They'd built an entire network throughout DC, targeting government contractors, architectural firms, tech companies. Britt named names, 12 others, including people Mac had met at dinner parties, industry conferences, PDA meetings. "Suzanne coordinates logistics," Britt said. "She's been running the local network for 5 years. Kirsten was the star, the deep penetration asset, but Suzanne kept everyone else running." "Where is she now?" "Safe house in Fairfax. She's waiting for extraction orders." Mac recorded everything, then made good on his promise. "You have 4 hours. Withdraw cash, get out of the city, disappear. If I ever see you again, or if you warn anyone, I'll release everything to both the FBI and your handlers. Understand?" Britt ran like his life depended on it. Because it did. Back in the car, Lucas listened to the recordings. "This is bigger than we thought. We should bring in the FBI, let them handle it." "No." Mac's voice was stone. "They'll lawyer up, claim diplomatic immunity, disappear into witness protection. I want justice, not bureaucracy." "Mac, you're talking about taking down a dozen foreign operatives on American soil. That's exactly what I'm going to do." Lucas studied his friend. "You've changed. The Mac I knew wouldn't. The Mac you knew had a wife who loved him. That Mac died last night." Mac started the car. "What's left is someone who's going to make sure everyone who threatened my son pays in full." By afternoon, Mac had implemented phase 2 of his plan. Using Britt's information and Horacio's technical skills, they'd hacked into the SVR's local communication network. The encryption was sophisticated, but Horacio had a contact, a former NSA analyst named Stefan Valencia, who owed him a favor. "You didn't get this from me," Stefan said, uploading cracking software. "But if you're going after the people who hurt your kid, I want to help." Within hours, Mac could read their communications. The network was in chaos. Romero's accident had triggered emergency protocols. Moscow was demanding immediate extraction of all assets, but logistics were complicated. They needed time. Time Mac wasn't going to give them. He sent a message through the hacked network, using Romero's codes. Primary objective compromised. Initiate Protocol Omega. Eliminate all local assets. Leave no witnesses. Protocol Omega didn't exist. Mac had invented it. But within minutes, Panic flooded the communications. Assets questioned each other, demanded clarification, began suspecting betrayal. Mac added fuel. Forged messages suggesting various operatives were FBI informants, embezzling funds, planning to defect. He turned them against each other with surgical precision. "You're weaponizing paranoia," Lucas observed. "That's dark, brother. They planted a woman in my life for 10 years, made her my wife, the mother of my child, all while planning to kill us. Dark is what they earned." By evening, the network was tearing itself apart. 2 operatives had fled the city. 3 had contacted lawyers. 1, a tech contractor named Garrett Shepard, had actually gone to the FBI, genuinely believing his colleagues were betraying him. And Suzanne Berry was making a run for it. Mac tracked her through traffic cameras, following her blue sedan toward the Maryland border. She was heading for a remote safe house, trying to disappear until Moscow could extract her. She wouldn't make it. Chapter 5. Controlled Demolition. Suzanne's car broke down 20 miles outside Baltimore. The engine seized, smoke pouring from the hood. She called for help, but her phone had no signal. Mac had made sure of both. She started walking, heels clicking on asphalt, completely exposed. When the black SUV pulled up beside her, relief crossed her face. Until Mac stepped out. "Hello, Suzanne. Or should I say Svetlana?" She ran. Lucas cut her off from behind. They were on a rural road, no witnesses, no cameras. Mac had chosen this location carefully. "You helped her," Mac said quietly. "You were in my home. You held my son. You pretended to be my wife's friend while planning to help murder him." Suzanne's composure cracked. "I was following orders. I didn't make the decisions. You executed them. That's enough." Mac pulled out a tablet, showed her the screen. It displayed bank records, her real accounts, offshore holdings, the money she'd accumulated over years of espionage. "Here's what's going to happen," Mac said. "You're going to cooperate fully with the FBI. You're going to testify against every operative in your network. You're going to burn the entire organization to ash. In exchange, I won't release this information to the SVR. They already know my finances. Not the real ones. These." Mac scrolled through more documents. "The ones showing you've been skimming for years. $500,000 the SVR doesn't know about. They'll think you're a traitor and thief." The forgery was perfect. Mac had spent hours crafting it with Horacio and Stefan's help. Suzanne wouldn't be able to prove it was fake before Moscow's enforcers found her. "You're blackmailing me into betraying my country." "You betrayed mine," Max said. "Now you'll help me fix it, or I'll make sure your bosses think you sold them out. Choose." Suzanne chose survival. Within hours, she was in FBI custody, singing like a canary about every operative, every operation, every asset in the network. Federal agents moved fast, rolling up the conspiracy before Moscow could intervene. But Mac's real target remained free, Kirsten. She'd disappeared after the failed extraction, gone to ground somewhere in the city. She was trained, experienced, dangerous. Finding her would be difficult, unless she came to him. Mac sat in his actual home, the one he'd fled 3 nights ago, alone. Jay was safe with Greg in an undisclosed location. Lucas was on standby 2 blocks away. The house was wired with cameras and motion sensors. Mac waited. He'd spent the day ensuring Kirsten would find him. He'd used compromised bank accounts, credit card transactions, cell phone signals, all carefully arranged to lead back to this address. He'd left breadcrumbs for a hunter who'd been trained to follow them. At 11:43 p.m., his sensors detected movement. Someone had defeated the back door lock with professional skill. Kirsten entered the kitchen silently, gun drawn. Mac sat in the living room, clearly visible, apparently unarmed. On the coffee table, divorce papers and a laptop. Kirsten appeared in the doorway. Even now, she was beautiful, composed. Only her eyes betrayed emotion, cold calculation. "Hello, Mac." "Katia Volkov," Max said. "That's your real name, right? Does it matter?" "Not really. You were Kirsten Fitzpatrick for 10 years. You played the role perfectly. I loved you." "I know." Something flickered across her face. "That wasn't supposed to happen." "What? You developing actual feelings? Or me surviving?" "Both." She raised her gun. "I didn't want to kill you. That's why I hesitated last night. The mission called for immediate termination, but I suggested extraction instead. I thought I could disappear, and you'd never know." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No. It's supposed to explain why I'm giving you a chance now. Sign the divorce papers. Give me the laptop. I know you have intelligence on the network. Walk away. I disappear, and you never see me again. And Jay is safe. I never wanted to hurt him. He wasn't part of the mission. He was collateral damage. A loose end. Kirsten's jaw tightened. Yes, but I can override those orders now. Let me go. And he lives a normal life. Max studied her. 10 years. He'd shared a bed with her, made a child with her, built a life with her. All theater. All lies. I can't do that, he said. Then I'll kill you and take the laptop. No, you won't. Mac gestured to the windows. Red laser dots appeared on Kirsten's chest, 3 of them, from different angles. I have snipers positioned. FBI tactical teams are 2 minutes out. You're surrounded. Kirsten's eyes widened, then hardened. You're bluffing. I'm an architect, Katia. I design structures, predict loads and stresses. I've been designing your capture for 3 days. Max stood slowly. Everything I've done, Romero's accident, Britt's cooperation, Suzanne's betrayal, was about hurting you here, into this controlled environment. You're the final piece to collapse. The red dots didn't waver. Kirsten lowered her gun slightly. I can still shoot you before they shoot me. You could. But then you die. Jay grows up knowing his mother murdered his father, and you lose everything. Or you can surrender, spend your life in prison, but know that at least you didn't add patricide to your list of sins. You think I care about redemption? No, Max said. I think you care about winning. And right now, staying alive is the only victory available to you. Kirsten's hand trembled, the first sign of genuine emotion he'd seen. Then slowly, she lowered her weapon. The doors burst open. FBI agents flooded in, weapons raised. They swarmed Kirsten, forcing her to the ground, cuffing her hands. She didn't resist. As they lifted her up, she looked at Mac. I did love you. Some part of me did. I hope you know that. It doesn't matter, Max said. Love without truth is just another lie. They took her away. Max stood in his living room, the one he designed, built, filled with memories that were now poisoned. His phone rang. Greg. It's over, Max said. No, son. One more thing. Chapter 6, Secondary Targets. What do you mean? Mac asked, exhaustion finally catching up. Greg's video feed showed him in a CIA conference room. We've been analyzing the intelligence Suzanne provided. The network was bigger than we thought. Some of the operatives escaped. And there's someone else, someone who wasn't on our radar. Max sat down heavily. Who? A financier. American citizen, no foreign ties we can detect. But he's been funding the operation, laundering money, providing cover. Name's Willard Schaefer. Mac recognized the name immediately. Schaefer was a prominent DC businessman, owner of multiple real estate companies. Mac had met him twice at industry events. Why would an American fund Russian intelligence? Money, according to Suzanne. Schaefer gets paid through shell companies. Plus, he uses the operatives to gather insider information for his business dealings. He's been profiting from espionage while betraying his country. Where is he? That's the problem. He knows we're coming. He's liquidating assets, preparing to flee. We've frozen his accounts, but he has resources we don't know about. If he gets out of the country, we may never find him. Mac felt a fresh surge of anger. He funded the operation that would have killed Jay. Yes, and he's currently in his office in Georgetown, probably arranging his escape. FBI is preparing a raid, but they're hours away from a warrant. He could be gone by then. Mac stood. Give me his address. Mac, this isn't like the others. Schaefer is a U.S. citizen with powerful connections. If you do anything illegal, I'm not going to touch him, Mac said. I'm just going to talk. Lucas drove Mac to Georgetown, to a high-rise office building overlooking the Potomac. Schaefer's company occupied the top floor. They rode the elevator up, walked past a receptionist who was packing boxes. Willard Schaefer sat in a corner office, destroying documents. He looked up as Mac entered. Late 60s, silver hair, expensive suit. The face of respectability hiding a rotten core. Mr. Fitzpatrick, Schaefer said calmly. I've been expecting someone. You funded the people who tried to kill my son. I funded a business arrangement. What my partners chose to do was their concern, not mine. You knew exactly what they were doing. You took blood money. Schaefer smiled. Prove it. I have excellent lawyers and no direct ties to any intelligence service. By tomorrow, I'll be in a non-extradition country, enjoying a comfortable retirement. There's nothing you can do. Mac walked to the window, looked out at the city. You're right. I can't touch you legally. But I don't need to. He pulled out his phone, showed Schaefer the screen. It displayed financial records, real ones this time, meticulously gathered over the past 3 days by Horacio's forensic accountant contacts. These are your actual transactions, Max said. Every payment, every shell company, every connection to the SVR network. More importantly, these are your debts. You owe $47 million to some very dangerous people. Russian oligarchs who won't be happy to learn their money funded a failed operation. Schaefer's composure cracked. How did you? I'm an architect. I follow the structure. And your financial structure is built on sand. Mac leaned against the window. Here's what's going to happen. I'm releasing these records to the FBI, ensuring you never leave the country. But I'm also releasing them to your creditors. The ones who don't care about legal processes. They'll kill me. Probably. Or you could turn yourself in, cooperate with federal investigators, and spend your life in prison under protective custody. Your choice. Schaefer's hands shook. You're condemning me to death either way. No, Max said. You condemned yourself when you funded a plot to murder an 8-year-old boy. I'm just making sure you face consequences. Whether that's in a courtroom or a shallow grave. That's up to you. Mac left. 15 minutes later, Willard Schaefer walked into FBI headquarters and requested protection in exchange for testimony. He'd spend the rest of his life in a federal prison, permanently looking over his shoulder for Russian retribution. Mac didn't feel satisfaction. He felt empty. That night, he picked up Jay from Greg's secure location. His son ran to him, and Mac held him tight, feeling the small body shake with relieved tears. Is it over? Jay asked. Almost, Max said. Chapter 7. The Trial. 6 months later, Max sat in a federal courtroom in Alexandria, watching Kirsten, dressed in prison orange, looking thinner but still composed, listen to the prosecutor detail her crimes. Conspiracy to commit espionage, attempted murder, identity fraud, operating as an unregistered foreign agent. The list went on. The evidence was overwhelming. Suzanne's testimony alone was devastating, but combined with documents, recordings, and forensic analysis, Kirsten had no defense. Mac attended every day of the trial. Not for closure. He knew there was no such thing. But for Jay, so he could truthfully tell his son that justice had been served. The hardest part came during impact statements. Greg testified about the damage to national security, the intelligence compromised, the agents endangered. Lucas spoke about the psychological trauma. And Mac spoke about Jay. My son has nightmares, Max said from the witness stand. He wakes up screaming, asking if his mother is coming back to hurt him. He's 8 years old. He should be worried about homework and soccer games, not whether his mother was ever real. Kirsten wouldn't look at him. But he's strong, Mac continued. Stronger than I expected. He's learning that betrayal doesn't define you. How you respond to it does. He's learning that family isn't always blood. It's the people who show up when you need them. He looked at Kirsten then, forcing her to meet his eyes. You could have been his mother. Really, truly. But you chose a mission instead. I hope it was worth it. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge, a stern woman named Deanna Carlson, showed no mercy. You infiltrated this country, violated its trust, exploited a family, and planned to murder a child. The law allows me to impose consecutive sentences for your crimes. I see no reason for leniency. Katia Volkov, also known as Kirsten Dean Fitzpatrick, I sentence you to life imprisonment without possibility of parole, plus 60 years on additional charges. You will spend the remainder of your life in federal custody. Kirsten finally broke. As guards led her away, she looked back at Mac one last time. He saw regret there, and grief, and something that might have been real. But it didn't matter anymore. Chapter 8. Rebuilding. Mac had sold the house in Alexandria. Too many ghosts. He'd bought a smaller place in Arlington, closer to Jay's new school, a place specializing in children who'd experienced trauma. Jay was improving, slowly. Nightmares less frequent. Smiles more genuine. Mac had thrown himself back into architecture, but with a different focus. He'd started a nonprofit, partnering with the FBI to help redesign safe houses and protection facilities. Using his skills to protect instead of being victimized. Lucas visited often, becoming the Uncle Jay needed. Greg came too, when his CIA duties allowed. The three of them, Mac, Lucas, and Greg had formed a bond forged in crisis. One evening, as Mac helped Jay with homework, his phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Fitzpatrick? This is Special Agent Rose Rocha, FBI Counterintelligence. We have a situation, and we think you can help. Mac's instincts prickled. What kind of situation? The kind where someone with your experience, your analytical mind, and your, let's call it, unconventional approach to problem solving would be invaluable. We've identified another deep cover network. Different service, different targets, but similar structure. You want me to consult? Unofficially, you'd work with my team, helping us identify patterns and vulnerabilities. You'd be compensated, of course, and you'd be saving families from what you went through. Mac looked at Jay, focused on his math problems, tongue sticking out in concentration. His son was healing, but other children were at risk. I need to think about it, Max said. I understand. But Mr. Fitzpatrick, you're good at this. You took down an entire espionage network in less than a week using nothing but intelligence and determination. We need people like you. After she hung up, Max sat thinking. He'd wanted to put this behind him, move on. But could he, knowing others might suffer what Jay had suffered? Dad, Jay looked up. You okay? Just thinking, buddy. About Mom. About the future. About helping people. Jay nodded seriously. You should. You're good at helping people. Out of the mouths of babes. Mac called Agent Rocha back that night. I'll do it. But on one condition, this stays quiet. I'm not becoming a public figure, not making this my identity. I help when I can, then I go back to my life. Agreed. Welcome aboard, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Over the next year, Mac worked on 3 cases, helping the FBI identify and dismantle foreign intelligence networks. He never confronted the operatives directly. That was FBI's job. But he found their patterns, predicted their movements, identified their vulnerabilities. He was good at it, just as Agent Rocha had said. And slowly, helping others helped him heal. Chapter 9, Foundation. 2 years after that terrible 3 a.m. call, Mac stood in front of a new building, a community center in D.C., designed for families affected by crime and trauma. He designed it himself, donated the work. It was beautiful, open, light-filled, incorporating therapeutic design principles he'd researched. Greg stood beside him at the opening ceremony. You did good, son. We did good, Mac corrected. Couldn't have survived without you. You would have found a way. You're stronger than you think. Mac wasn't sure about that, but he knew he was different, harder in some ways, softer in others. The betrayal had taken something from him, but surviving it had given something back, certainty. He knew who he was now, what he stood for, what he'd protect at any cost. Jay ran up, now 10 years old and thriving. Dad, Lucas is here. He brought pizza. Of course he did, Mac laughed. They walked inside together, joining the celebration. Mac had learned that healing wasn't linear, wasn't complete. The scars remained. Sometimes he still woke at 3 a.m., heart racing, checking windows. Sometimes Jay still had nightmares. But they had each other. They had family, real family, chosen family. They had purpose. Later, as the sun set and guests began leaving, Mac received a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. For whatever it's worth, I'm sorry. K. Kirsten. Even from prison, she found ways to reach out. Mac deleted the message without responding. She wanted absolution he couldn't give. But in deleting it, he felt something shift. The anger that had sustained him through investigation, trial, and aftermath, it loosened its grip slightly. Not forgiveness. Never that. But perhaps the beginning of moving forward. Dad, Jay appeared at his elbow. Can we go home now? Home. They'd built a new one, together. Not on lies and deception, but on truth and resilience. Yeah, buddy, Max said, putting his arm around his son. Let's go home. They walked out into the evening, father and son, into a future they'd fought to protect. Behind them, the community center stood as a monument to survival, to justice, to the truth that some foundations, once broken, can be rebuilt even stronger than before. Mac had been an architect before the crisis, designing spaces for others. Now he was an architect of his own life, carefully constructing something real, something lasting, something worth protecting. The betrayal had tried to destroy him. Instead, it had revealed what he was capable of becoming. Not a victim, but a victor. Not broken, but rebuilt. Not bitter, but better. As they drove home, Jay turned on the radio, and Max smiled. Tomorrow he'd work on a new building design. Tomorrow he'd consult with the FBI on another case. Tomorrow he'd face whatever came. But tonight, he had his son, his peace, and his hard-won victory. That was enough. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.